Welcome everyone. I am Ravi Gupta. I am editor-in-chief of a magazine called Banking and Finance Post. The this magazine has been published for last 7 years, and we also run a portal called bfsi.eletsonline.com. And this portal covers various innovations which are happening through IT in the banking sector. And today we are having this panel discussion, and the topic is accelerating digital transformation in banking and financial services with multi-cloud strategy. And we are joined here by eminent speakers here. And our first speaker is Shri Milind Warekar ji. He is the General Manager IT from Saraswat Bank. Welcome, Milinji. Thanks for joining us. Namaskar. We have with us A. Balakrishnan. He is the leader in Nutanix Technologies India. Welcome, Bala. Thanks for joining us. And we have Venkat. He is the CTO of FIS. Welcome, Venkat. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much. So we are the context of this discussion is the of course the COVID-19 situation, which has accelerated digital transformation in a big way in the overall BFSI sector. And this digital acceleration is actually leading to digital transformation in the banking and financial services sector. And how is the cloud and the multi-cloud strategy important in these situations? So requesting each of the panelists to speak about it, and I will request to start with Bala to speak about it and give a context to this discussion. Bala.
Yeah, thanks Ravi for the introduction, and good afternoon, Milind sir, and good afternoon, Venkat, for joining in for today's discussion. So when you talk about cloud technology overall, and the digital transformation as a tool, what I would believe is that there are two sets of customers, right, or other organizations. One set is early adopters, as we call them, right, the leading adopters or change agents, as we call it. And typically, if they have achieved some level of digital transformation till date, for them it is a tool for excellence. So I'll give you an example. There are organizations who are using digital technologies today or applications today, mobile applications for customer experience, which means the endpoint customer touch. They are also using it to enable their salespeople in the field, using whichever CRM they want to use, like Salesforce or whatever. So they are using it for internal excellence. They're also using it for their intermediaries, right? So it's become a digital world. So you have digital intermediaries, and therefore, APIization of your overall processes means that you can conclude processes faster, you can do settlements faster, and therefore, when all of them are digitally enabled, it just becomes a very smooth operational, excellence which is achieved by the firm. Then there will always be adopters who will look at it from their end customer perspective. How easy is it for them to adopt it, and therefore it's always with respect to customers, right? I mean, how enabled are their customers in this entire journey, and how easy is it for them to navigate this digital transformation. If it's difficult for customers, then it sometimes doesn't give us the desired results. So for them, yes, the survival instinct will kick in. They will, in my opinion, work and sign up for the customer side part of it, at least, if not anything else, so that their customers' experience is not disrupted in this current situation. And I believe then they will get on with their way of doing the other parts, right, the internal parts and the channel intermediaries enablement. That's my sense on where organizations, at which stage would they look at digital transformation, in what manner.
Sure. Uh, Excellent inputs, Bala. Thanks for that. And let me move to our next speaker, Mr. Venkat. And Venkat, your views on this topic of digital transformation and the cloud strategy. Venkat.
Yeah, so I see it as twofold. So one is the digital transformation towards our customers, and the second one is digital transformation with our own workforce, right? So with the customers, it's more the agility to service them, how fast we service them, and enabling the banks to service their customers the faster, the better, right? So today, the patience level of the end clients when they make a payment or when they want to open an account, these are all very reducing day by day. Right? It should be like a click of a button, everything happens within seconds or even milliseconds. Right? So digitalization to that extent is very critical to ensure that the time to service to the clients are very minimal, and the satisfaction level goes high with every transaction a customer makes. So today, with a lot of regulations, even to open an account, KYC, you need to give 12 plus documents to open your account. So a client cannot come and wait in a bank for hours together to get his account enabled. It should be a few minutes or even less than that is the expectation today to open an account also. So with that, the expectation or the pressure to digitize is tremendous in the banking segment. And the second one, which I highlighted, was on our own workforce digitalization. So with this COVID situation, how are we enabling our employees to improve their productivity, deliver more with the limitations around the current situation, right? People are working from home. Many of them are in remote locations where the internet is not up to the mark in Indian towns and villages. So how do we enable them to deliver more with whatever is available? Right. So this workforce digitalization, the virtual office, all VDI concepts, the security around DLPs. So these all are going to be the predominant points of the future technologies. So I see these two as the key aspects in digital transformation. Thank you.
Sure. Venkat, excellent inputs and thanks. And you mentioned about the customer has to feel easy to use any digital product, and it has to be user oriented. And we have a senior banker with us, Milind Parekar from Saraswat Bank. So, Milind ji, your opinion on this topic of digital transformation. Milind ji.
Digital transformation for banks is an inevitable thing nowadays. And customer expectations, if you see whether it is a cooperative bank or a private sector bank or a public sector bank, the customer expectations are same. So from that point, the lines are blurred for the banks to enable the digitization. Digitization, as Venkat has said, is embraced in our bank at two levels. One is the customer journey, the customer touch points, and second is the related processes that we need to digitize in-house so that the processes are handled faster, automated, and secured way. So for customer engagements, we started doing digitization some years back, and during demonetization, we saw that the adoption rate increased, and it continued. So later on, also we kept the pace. We had a concentrated efforts on digital banking channel by separating out a separate division in digital banking, and we have put a thrust on that. So we started using some part of cloud for enabling testing environments, so that once you are into digital environment or digital banking channels, you also need to work with various fintechs. So the easiest way to connect with all them, we thought that if we enable cloud testing UAT setup, so it will move faster. And that's how we also started using agile development practices. that also helped in rolling out the digital channels faster to the customers. And ease of use, of course, because nowadays the millennials or the generations are dependent on mobile only. So we are uh, putting more and more trust on enabling new channels on mobile. Like we have mobile banking platform through which you can do cashless ATM withdrawals and all that. Plus, we also have an app where a customer can self onboard using eKYC. We are also now looking to onboard video KYC channels. So this customer journey will continue because and looking into the current pandemic situation where social distancing will become the new normal. So there, I feel that such facilities of video eKYC will help banks in onboarding the customers. That is what my take.
Uh, Great to know that the Saraswat, the bank, is taking so many initiatives for digital transformation, and in these turbulent times, like these are the very essential tools, of course. May I request the speakers to talk about our next question, which is how significant is the role of cloud technology in today's BFSI gamut with respect to digital transformation? And my question is to first to Mr. Bala, who is the Vice President and Managing Director of Nutanix India. Bala.
Yeah, so I think what COVID has done is sort of bring out some of the realities of the challenges which customers typically face on a day-to-day basis, but have the means to rectify, correct it, and move on, right, for their customers. But what COVID has done is that obviously it has really brought that remote angle into the picture and say that how much of your infrastructure and operations are modernized and automated. So, example, are you able to provision a huge database, sitting out of home, right? And how easy is it to get going on that one? How easy is it from your matter of settlements perspective? So what we have seen is that modernization and automation obviously are getting a lot of discussions, at the senior level in our customers. Clearly, this is sort of accelerating at least the fact that customers are looking at that very seriously. Also the fact that elasticity, and cloud is a big, this thing of elasticity, right? I mean, it brings in that agility essentially. And the fact that your load could be variable now. It was variable all the time, but in this sense, if you're taking a customer situation, if you're taking lending as an example, you would probably believe that around the 20th of the month your load will be more, or 25th of the month the load will be more. Around the first of the next month the load will be less, simply because people have their salaries in hand, right? So again, lending to retail, lending to corporate firms. I'm saying in general, the variability of the load, the cost per transaction decrease is all going to bring in technologies which need to be agile. You will have to move your infrastructure operations to a DevOps model, as Sir was saying, Milind Sir was saying that he had already started doing agile methodologies in terms of applications and things like that. How are you able to launch applications quickly? And very, very quickly, rather than having, again, across multi-clouds, right? So if today you're running it on your on-premise cloud itself, it is quite possible that you might have to burst it out to the cloud in a future scenario to do data and analytics on that platform. So it's quite possible that those scenarios will come up. So how are you able to really drag and drop your workload from one cloud to another, if at all that need is required, right? You can always, again, banking, is a scenario where there is a lot of security involved, there's a lot of regulatory angles involved, and therefore I would presume that as long as your data pertains to the laws of the land, it pertains to the laws of physics. When I say laws of physics, I'm talking about the performance piece of it, and the laws of economics, right? Laws of economics says how in a cost per transaction environment moving into the future, how lower are your costs per transaction going to be. So if your data around these three suggest that you put it in your own private cloud on premises and manage it because of the regulatory angle, so be it. If you think that it is okay, that data can be encrypted, move to the cloud, and it can improve your customer experience, move it to the public cloud. Or for that matter, your own internal customers' data, from your perspective, not your customers' data, your internal customers, not your external customers. So I see the cloud actually enabling all of this, and as more and more functionalities are provided by the banks, and as sir said, right, there is no difference between a cooperative bank and a public sector bank and a private bank, right? All customers, especially millennials, expect a high level of services, and data and analytics is going to play a very big role in that, right? How you upsell and cross sell some of the services, and therefore I see cloud becoming that platform for people to have all of this ready on a platter, using DevOps, using application blueprints, using the modernization which they can do. How do you create a data lake? How do security being so paramount, how do you actually do log analytics, of the incoming data, and ensure that there is no malware and ransomware? COVID has got a rise of, seen a rise of malware and ransomware also, right? Attacks, which are coming in. So all of those, how agile your systems will change. I call it even the security evolving in a DevOps manner, to call it DevSecOps, right? So even the security parameters will need to be changed on the fly and will not wait for people to do those changes. The system should be capable of doing those changes, right? Obviously, the encryption and other things are like day zero work. You have to have that as part of your platform. How well will your platform work in a multi-cloud manner? Will it work in the same manner in a public cloud, if at all, again, required in the future, as compared to on your on-premises? If there is no change, you just have to lift and shift and get no change in performance, get no change in the security levels, get no change in the regulatory angle. Then your platform needs to be a really solid one, and I believe that is where, example, companies like us are really working to ensure that customers' experience of performance, security, and other things remains as it is, irrespective of the infrastructure platform. If it is on premise, it is on premise. If it is on the cloud, it is on the cloud. The same layer works.
May I request Venkat to take it forward from where Bala has left, that your views on this issue of cloud and multi-cloud in these situations. Venkat.
Sure. So I'll complement to what Bala sir has been telling. So today's client's expectation is all the same, be it an NBFC or a corporate or a small finance bank, large bank. The expectation is all the same. And from regulatory and security compliance perspective, it's all the same. So there's no difference at all. So when I say expectation, just continuing from where I said earlier, the speed in which we deliver, right? The speed in which we create servers, create environments, matters most. And cloud is the only way we can achieve that, right? So today's business guys are all IT savvy. There are no more people who just leave it to the infrastructure team to size a server and let them know that this is the server capacity you would need. They would come up and dictate the technologies to IT team. That's the knowledge way the business team has. So from that perspective, they stop asking for servers. If you notice, business guys now want just processing power, not the servers. Right? So the drive towards businesses are bringing down the capex. We should start reducing capex, drive opex, revenue, the top line numbers has to grow, and all that with minimum resources. Infrastructure usually is the top cost always. Right? So optimizing infrastructure is the driver for all these components, reducing capex almost everything. Right? It dictates the business revenues also. So cloud, it cannot be for banking. One model doesn't fit all the banks and all the regulatory requirements. So it has to be a hybrid model. So we still continue to have the legacy application. Yes, there are programs to bring down the legacy applications. Because of that, you end up having on-prem solutions still predominantly. Then you have your private cloud because of regulatory requirements where data has to be in country, data cannot go out, and the security associated with that. And we have the public cloud. So the hybrid of all this is what will make the difference to achieve the ultimate goal of reducing the footprints of legacy application, bringing down the capex, and also from that perspective. And like what Bala said, moving the load, right? It's easy to move the load. Now, when you do not invest in your hardware, you are not stuck with the technology. So when you buy your own hardware, you have to live with it. You're invested in the capex and things. When you're in the cloud, you're not stuck with the technology. As the technology grows, you can start moving your load to any of these platforms which is available, right? So the investment is saved from a technology growth perspective. So that so gone are those days where I spent crores and crores of rupees on infrastructure, and because of that spend, I'm stuck with that technology forever. Right? So today it is like technology moving year on year, making a huge difference. The processing capacity varies every year. It keeps changing a lot. And we can do much with a single processor today, what we had been doing with hundreds of processors earlier, right? So these are the things where cloud will make a lot of difference in enabling the business. Thank you.
Your points about capex and opex are very relevant here, Venkat. Thanks for that. And may I request Milinji for your views on this subject of cloud adoption in banking.
Our cloud adoption, I'll start with our experience. Our cloud adoption has been a bit, I would say, moderate, because what we did is we went to cloud with our non-core applications first, and though some critical applications like HRMS is on cloud now, email system is on cloud now. And apart from that, as I explained in my previous discussion, that some of the DevOps, we are doing it on cloud, though we have not taken the production environment on cloud. Going into the pandemic situation, immediately the problem that we faced was how do we keep the lights on? How do we keep the things moving? Because we were also facing the financial year end, which was around 25th March or so. So the cloud services of work from home helped us tremendously to enable the users to start functioning, doing all the processes, maintaining all the maintaining and taking care of all the infrastructure. So all that we could achieve faster with the work from home cloud services that are there. Currently, we are also into a big migration project of CBS. So there also it helped in enabling all the vendors and the business partners to enable their staff to continue to work from home, so that there is no much of a disturbance into the project timelines. So there we have started also like the usage of video conferencing has enabled us to continue with our regular executive committee meetings. In fact, our board meetings are also now happening on the platform, video conferencing platforms. So this I see going ahead will help us, and this has given the confidence also that some of the applications and some of the technologies can be adopted faster if you are onto the cloud environment. Though some concerns have remained for the cyber security and information security, because going into this COVID situation, we have seen that the attacks also have increased tremendously. And every day we are getting a lot of alerts from regulators and other agencies. So there also we need to be very careful in what kind of technology we adopt. Currently, we are also looking to evaluating some of the products to set up a private cloud. And because going forward, the digital channels, we want to take it into this environment, so that if we are experiencing any burst into the digital channel usage, so we should be able to take care if we are onto a private cloud kind of environment. So there we are evaluating this technology.
Sure. You have mentioned about the fast adoption of the digital tools in these COVID situations, and which is, I think, a great step forward in the digital transformation journey. And may I, you also mentioned about the security aspects, which are of great concern, and there are more attacks in these situations of the COVID-19. So, may I request Bala to throw some light on the security concerns in a multi-cloud platform? Bala, you are mute, Bala. Yeah.
Apologies. Yeah, so if you look at security, right, security is a day zero job, right? I mean, when I say day zero job, right from an application perspective, right from a operating platform perspective, right from an infrastructure perspective, security becomes a day zero job. Again, if you look at the cloud folks, and I'm here referring to a multi-cloud scenario. So obviously, when it is on-premise, it becomes slightly better off because you have to take care of the platform which is on-premise, right? And example like Nutanix, security, encryption, data at rest, data in flight. So we do quite a lot of things which takes care of the real security requirements. Patching, assuming that there is no leakage anywhere, no ports which are open. So we do take a lot of interest in ensuring that our platforms are delivered in a manner which obviously customers are absolutely secure. Now comes the challenge of what Milind sir was saying, that if you have payment gateways, or if you have payment companies, right, which are on the cloud. Now, how do you, and when you want to have that payment company as a digital intermediary, and you're going to, involve your cash management systems for that, how do you ensure, their security is paramount? Okay. In fact, a lot of these payment companies initially, right, I'm not talking about today, when they came up, they all came up on the public cloud. And they came up as technology companies, right, providing payment gateways and providing payment options, right? But I don't think at that time they looked at it as from a security perspective, apart from providing the user security, right, from a credit card perspective and all. I think RBI clearly then put rules in place. NBFCs came in the ambit of the regulatory mechanisms. And now all of them, not only need to look at it from a security perspective, but also from a DR perspective, what is their readiness and things like that. So I would believe that security is at various levels. There is an endpoint security which is important from an organizational employee perspective today, which probably earlier was not the case with everybody. It was there with a set of people who were working from home. Whenever they needed to access. But now with everybody in the organization working from home, there is a security angle which comes in there, right, from an endpoint perspective. Then there is a security aspect of your entire operations, which should not be hit by malware and other things, and how solid is your security, with respect to that. Which is why I had mentioned about this fact of, the security operations also getting automated. Down the line, I see that as something which will come. And as Venkat sir was saying about, the cloud piece of it, if your security evolves in a real-time manner, looking at the log analytics. So if your log analytics is coming from a streaming manner, using Kafka or whatever it is, and then you're able to see some of those patterns quickly and change your security settings on the fly without having to, as much as possible, have human intervention. I think that will be the state of readiness which everybody will look forward to from a assurance of security perspective. That said, today in a multi-cloud world, I would believe you would still have to look at your own, folks to provide for that security. Because I'll give you an example. There could be organizations which come with, a layer of security of their own, and when you try to put it into a multi-cloud setup, every cloud will have its own security parameters which will need to be tweaked. There is no automatic synchronization which is going to happen across, say, the three clouds and on-premise, right? Now that is in the works. That is in the works. It will probably happen, sometime in the future. But I would look forward to a world one day when all that the customer needs to worry about is, okay, if I put this into the public cloud, will it be equally safe? Now, that does not mean customers are going to rush to put core banking on the cloud. I would believe it is going to take time. As Milind sir said, tier 2, tier 3 applications, we are seeing, FIS has fraud and risk management, the cash management services, UPI, mobile banking, all of these, from a private cloud perspective, we have seen Nutanix platforms actually having a lot of these applications, eKYC, data lake, document management systems. We have the platforms to support those pieces. Contact centers, again, very, very important, as a first access to the bank or any financial institution. So across this board, we would want a world where the customer or the application vendor writes the business logic, which benefits the end business of that bank. And then the customer should be in a position to say, okay, my contract is with Azure, so I want to put it on Azure. My contract is not with any cloud provider, so I want to work with it on-premise because of the data security requirement. Or my contract is with Google, and therefore I want to put it on Google or AWS. Now, once you come to that, utopian situation where the customer just writes the business logic, and the modernization and automation will help you put the right workload in the right cloud, so to say, right? Depending upon the need for analytics, depending upon the need for security, you will choose which cloud. I think we are still a couple of years from getting there. And probably that would be the day when we can say that, yes, we have now sort of flattened the discussion around what should be the layer of performance. Today, Nutanix has that benefit that you can actually use it on-premise, and the same workload with the Nutanix bare metal, same licenses, you can put it on a public cloud if you want. You will get the same performance, and we'll get it across all the three clouds soon. So we are getting there. My point is, if we get there faster, it will be even more beneficial for our customers.
Excellent. Bala, excellent inputs, and may I request Venkat to give your perspective on this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like what Bala sir said, it may appear that it's pretty straightforward and simple to manage security when it is an on-prem solution. And I would put it is myth. People believe that security is slightly weaker in cloud. So when they say cloud, they start believing that there are vulnerabilities more in the cloud. But that's not the case, right? So cloud is one of the component when you do an end-to-end view of the security, like what Bala said, exactly said. It starts with the endpoint itself, right? So whether your laptop is enabled with all your security aspects, right, from your antivirus to your DLP, to all the security components required at the endpoint. So if your endpoint is compromised, it's an easy entry into any of the systems. So it's not necessarily that security around cloud is the important aspect. End to end, everything, every single component. Data in motion, data trace, everything has to be taken care from entry point, network side, data center network side, all comes into play from security perspective. So the investment of security typically is high, and hence organizations tend to compromise that. Okay, let me postpone this investment a little later. That is when they get compromised, right? The CEOs and MDs of the organization must be aware of the security importance. They must be ready to invest in security with zero compromise on the investments they would have to make in the security. Today, in this COVID situation, you would have been seeing a lot of warnings coming from the regulator and the government also that India is targeted from multiple other hackers and countries, and we have been vigilant day and night. We do see hits from unwarranted agencies are coming into the systems. So it's going to be tough to manage security if the organization top management is not believing security is an important component. Unfortunately, today many organizations still do that. The CEOs and MD are not that aware security is the pioneer thing to run the business. So the education around that to the management layer is very important. And so coming to the cloud security in FIS, we have built something called bank in a box, right? So where we have shared services model for a private cloud, we give various tenants to different banks and ensure that data privacy is managed. So the best part about this is that the security is a shared service model, right? So banks do not need to invest fully on the security. It's a shared service model. It becomes very simple. The regulator is common across all the banks. So the regulatory compliance, the controls are all the common thing. So the cost is affordable, and a dedicated soft model where the live SIM logs are monitored and alerted, actions are proactively taken. These are the things which is must have for a bank to manage security proactively. And automation around security. So when an attack is seen, you don't wait and react late after the attack happens. So proactively managing, in fact, it should be predictive management to detect an attack and block it at the perimeter layer itself to ensure that the services are not impacted. So many banks have been reporting their internet banking, mobile banking, are seeing something like a DDoS attack. So that has to be proactively managed at the perimeter layer itself. Right? So it's just to summarize, the security is not just about cloud security. It's an end-to-end, starting from endpoint to the data center or network. Everything inclusive is what we need to focus around security.
Sure. Excellent inputs. I think you elaborated the various aspects of this security in cloud environment. Pankaj, thanks for that, and thanks Bala for that. And may I request Milind ji to talk about that? How do you see this security issues in a cloud environment, and what are the other challenges of adoption of cloud in a banking ecosystem? Milind ji.
See, cyber attacks or cyber threats have not only remained as an earlier it used to be for financial their benefits, and it has not remained only as a financial benefit industry. It has become a tool as a state terrorism. And as has been stated rightly by Venkat and Bala, it's not only on the cloud that you need to be worried about the security, but also on your endpoints, because you don't know from where the compromise will happen, whether it is from your within the system or outside the system. Your perimeter security may be compromised, your internal security could be compromised. The security has to be multi-layered, particularly for financial organizations like us, where we need to ensure the customer data needs to be protected. And not only protected, there are regulatory requirements also in terms of, for example, Aadhaar. We need to maintain it in Aadhaar data vault. So all those regulatory requirements, because regulators is also now coming up with more and more security guidelines. So we need to not only adhere it from compliance point of view, but also ensure that the customer also feels safe to transact with the bank. It's because if any attack or any compromise happens, it straight away now is linked to your reputational risk. So reputational risk for a financial institution is much higher. So from that point of view, it's not only on cloud that you need to protect the security, but also on your on-prem infrastructure that you have, on the endpoints that you have. So various tools we are already implemented. Antivirus, of course, is there, DLP, and we are also implementing some other measures that we want to do. Users are being enabled with two-factor authentication for using the critical applications. Moving on to the cloud platform, yes, the opportunities during the pandemic situation, we saw that if you adopt cloud-based technologies, then you are able to enable the services much faster. So, and if you have a spread of users at various locations, then it becomes difficult to have on-premise kind of environment and then enable users. But if you have it on cloud, the enablement of services becomes very faster. So some sort of cloud adoption will increase into the coming days and near future also. And now, earlier there was not much of maturity in terms of managing the security and managing the cloud services, but that has come now. And we have seen that even the service providers are also ensuring and adopting various security practices into the cloud services that they provide. But ultimately, being the owner of the data, the banks or financial institutions are responsible for ensuring that security are maintained. So from that point of view, I see there is a bit of hesitation from the financial companies and banks going into taking their critical applications on cloud. So that concern will remain. And secondly, the applications such as CBS are still not cloud ready in terms of the voluminous data that they handle and the kind of applications that has been developed by all these organizations. So there also some development will have to happen from the application vendors. They also will have to come onto the platform which is cloud ready.
Sure. I think you have highlighted the various challenges the banking sector is facing in adoption of cloud. Thanks for that, Milinji, for the inputs. And may I request Bala to highlight that are there any regulatory push required to help the banking sector adopt cloud and the multi-cloud strategy? Are there any regulatory issues which are still unaddressed? And are there what are the other ways in which technology companies can actually help banking ecosystem to adopt this multi-cloud strategy cheaper and faster? Bala. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah. I think regulators are bankers, right? And therefore their view of what is good, for the country again, right? From a regulatory perspective, it would and it should remain conservative, right? Because you're talking about the soul of the nation in that sense, right? The background is the economy, and the background of economy is finance, right? And the background of finance is the backbone of that finance is banking in that sense. So I would believe that regulators would take a conservative view. That said, are can the cloud provide that regulatory compliance? Perfectly, yes. The cloud can provide the regulatory compliance. I think the education lies in the fact that it is still paramount, for the user to look at it as their VM or their container. What I mean is, the cloud companies, public cloud companies will be, as folks, all of us said, right, spinning up infrastructure in a very agile manner, in a very elastic manner, and you will get the infrastructure with the security provided, up to the network layer, the security provided from a physical infrastructure perspective. You don't even know where the data center is, example, right? But your workload is going to be running on a public cloud, for example. Now the regulator would want to know where that application is. I know Milind sir probably would ratify to the fact that when the regulatory inspection happens or audit happens for compliance, quite often the regulator does ask for it, right? Okay, where are the applications from at your data center, and how is it running, right? When they come and audit it. Now, when it comes to the public cloud companies, pointing that out as a challenge because you're on multiple tenants and multiple VPCs or virtual private clouds as you call it. Now that often becomes a challenge. Now even that challenge can be overridden because you can say that yes, I've clicked all the regulatory pieces and all, but the user cannot let down their guard. The user from the bank or which is say managing that internet banking platform or a mobile banking platform or whatever it is, still needs to understand that beyond the infrastructure level security and regulatory angles, the workload compliance is still their responsibility, right? Which is still the bank's responsibility. And therefore, even if you're on the public cloud with one of your workloads, you would still need to own up that responsibility, right? Security in the cloud for your application belongs to the customer, belongs to the bank or the financial institution which is putting up that workload. And I think that is a matter of education. You could decide to believe that yes, the public cloud is secure and therefore it is as good or as not good as your own environment. If you apply all the regulatory compliances to your on-premise environment, you have to apply the same to the public cloud. That is how I would probably look at it. So it is a question of regulatory readiness to the technology changes. Again, the data piece of it, when it comes to the data piece of it, it is not about the data locality. I think that has sort of got addressed. Yes, you're talking of data locality in India. All the private cloud anyway will be within the premises of the bank or their hosted data centers. The public cloud providers are also available in India and their data will be stored in India. I think that essentially is taken care of. I think the question happens as to what happens to the jurisdiction of the data when there is a conflict. Okay, and when as Milind sir said, when various countries get into play, and then there is a ask for data, say coming from say US, then how does that data get treated? Then how, I mean, where are your protection rights from a privacy perspective, data privacy perspective for the customer, right? How do you take care of that? Now, if it is within India, obviously all the if it is fine. But if the organizations also are bound by the country in which they are set up, right? The original companies. If you look at all the cloud providers, they are not born Indian cloud providers, right? I'm hoping that soon we will have, cloud providers who are Indian by birth and Indian, by origin. And that is where I think some of the challenges are, which is why a lot of the regulatory workloads continue to be on-premise because the regulatory compliances require them to be so. And I think that often is a situational, of regulatory readiness to understand technology better, as well as organizational readiness from a bank or a institution perspective to manage the security at the same highest levels on any environment, their own environment or the public cloud.
Yes. Excellent inputs, Bala. I think you have highlighted both the aspects from the regulators and also from the customer perspective. I requesting Venkat to give your views on this subject.
Yeah, sure. From my perspective, there is tremendous change in the way a regulator has started looking at the cloud. So yes, as Bala sir said, they have to be conservative with regard to the controls and compliance and security perspective. But there is tremendous change. We have seen the way RBI started relaxing on the payments, UPIs, and the payment platform itself has emerged. So in order to adapt to the modernization and digitalization, yes, the cloud has to be seen differently by the regulators, which is happening, right? So the future is about virtual banking. So we would not be having branches, we would not be having a bank itself physically there. So everything is going to be virtual. It's a reality today in some other country. So that's not far away in India also. So we would end up having virtual banking. So the concept of having on-prem physical resources will be done. So we are moving towards that gradually. if not a drastic change, it is bound to happen. So there will be a cautious decision by regulators, step-by-step action to go there to virtual banking. So for that, cloud is the infra which will be adopted. On-prem definitely will be a past historical thing, right? So people will start looking at cloud for enabling virtual banking. So security and data are the two pioneer drivers for the regulator when it comes to cloud and versus on-prem. So as long as we are able to demonstrate them the controls in the cloud from compliance perspective and prove them that the data resides in country. Today, all the cloud providers, majority of the cloud providers do have presence in country, and they are able to show the data in country and prove that it is not going outside of the country. So if you are able to demonstrate that, I don't see a challenge with the regulator accepting that. Private clouds are already there. It's about the public cloud as well, as I said. So as long as we are able to prove that yes, all the controls and compliances are met, regulators are not going to stop us going to public cloud. It's just the decision by the CIOs to go to the public cloud. So having said that, so once public cloud becomes the solution to the world, so banks will start automatically adapting to that technology, new technology, right? Agility, speed, all that will be the terminologies which will become very common in banking segment. So branches today, how many of us go to the branches? Already we don't go to the branches. We are in digital world already. So I would put a 5-year roadmap to see a virtual bank in India coming in. That's my bet on that. Thank you.
Ravi, please enable your mic. Ravi, you're on mute.
Sorry, apologies. Sorry for that. We are all like a digital adopted. We are adopting digital. So thanks, Venkat, for highlighting this point about virtual banking. This is becoming the norm now, and of course, it is coming up with its own set of issues. So may I request Milind sir to kindly give your views on this subject of cloud adoption, regulatory issues, security issues, and give your like concluding remarks on this session. Milind sir.
As Venkat has said, there is going to be future of banking is going to be virtual. At present and in future also, the banking is going to be a collaborative banking. It not that a standalone bank will be able to offer all the virtual services or all the digital services. So the collaboration with various fintechs, various other organizations, payment service providers is bound to happen. And as you go into a collaborative banking environment where you are enabling other fintechs and other applications to join with your banking systems, maybe it's going to be a API banking in future. So there, multiple entities will be on cloud. They will be providing services through cloud. The agility that the cloud services provides will help the banks to connect with them faster, roll out the services faster. At the same time, there will be concerns as we have been discussing so far. And a regulator, as stated previously, rightly, regulator is going to be conservative, and regulator may not come with clear-cut guidelines. Though there are data privacy bill that has been introduced into the parliament will ensure that data protection will happen and data localization also will happen. So after all, the banks also will have to take the call into the adoption of all these services and going onto the cloud. How much you can go to the cloud and how much you can bring the cloud in your own environment by setting up a private cloud environment. having an agile infrastructure to ensure that the digital channel adoption, which is happening already, can scale up to the next level. So that calls something which lies with all the banks and their own requirements and the way they are functioning. So that has to happen slowly and steadily, where in a collaborative API-based banking environment, you are working with multiple entities. You don't know from where they are providing the service and which cloud they are. So there you need to ensure that you have a good secured environment where you are able to ensure that all the regulatory requirements are met, and at the same time you are also agile enough to have your infra in place.
Sure. Uh, uh, I want to request Bala to give you concluding remarks on this session. Bala?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be an exciting world, as we move forward, and one where the technology truly helps, our customers, which is the banks and the other financial institutions, to provide, as we say, if you can reimagine some customer journeys, if you can remove the friction from their experiences, if you get to things like gestures enabled, customer journeys, using AI and other things, I think that's going to be the world. And again, as Venkat sir and Milind sir said, the world of virtual banking, and if I may throw in one more word, right, open banking. Yes, abroad, some of the regulatory institutions have already put up open banking standards where the entire ecosystem will be open for people to use the data for the customer's benefit. So the way it is positioned, it is for the customer's benefit. So I'm presuming that that is leading to this APIization at a very rapid pace. You're no longer going to have physical intermediaries. You're going to have digital intermediaries. Your time to settlement, simply because the cost per transaction is going to go down drastically. And when cost per transaction goes down drastically, your number of transactions has to be either equal or higher for the institution to be making the same amount of money, right? Yeah, but what that requires internally from a customer perspective or from a bank perspective, when I say customer, our customers, is the organizational change into a process like DevOps, skills like horizontal skills. It's a cloud infrastructure architect or a cloud applications architect rather than a server architect or a storage architect or a network architect. So your vertical silos break down into horizontal silos. Processes in place which aid, as we said, right? If DevOps is extended to security, then it becomes DevSecOps. So some of those changes will have to be done, so it goes beyond cloud as a technology. The technology piece will fit in, the people piece, the processes piece has to be also enabled for the institutions to be ready for this era of virtual banking or open banking without having to worry about security and other things. So I would believe that then eventually it doesn't matter where your platform is, where your infrastructure is, right, and where your application is, as long as and organizations like Nutanix are helping customers get there in that sense.
Yeah. So
I would leave just one last point. I think along with the infrastructure modernization, I think a lot of customers are looking at application modernization. So use of Kubernetes as a means to manage your containerization of applications and ensure that, again, as per cost per transaction, if you can reduce your infrastructure cost, as Venkat sir was saying, that cost on the infrastructure is normally the highest piece, then you align your internal organization to those cost parameters. So application modernization, SaaSification, retiring of legacy applications, core banking will no longer be a monolith. Core banking will be probably a system of records. Yes, the rest of it will all be SaaS applications out there for your internal and external customers. I see that as a multi-cloud world.
excellent. So, Bala, thanks for highlighting the future, and that how will the future look like if the adoption of SaaS and cloud technologies happen in a faster way. And I want to thank all the experts who have joined in this excellent panel. A lot of knowledge has emerged out of these discussions. Thanking you, Milind sir. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Venkat, and thank you, Bala from the Nutanix for providing a lot of technical dimensions to this discussion. So, with this, we will end this session on cloud adoption and digital transformation in the banking system. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Venkat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venkat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Milind sir. Thank you, Venkat. Thanks a lot.